Okay, hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. The title is When Nature Goes Beyond Humanism. And when it comes to speech, I find a human being can speak about past events, a human being can speak about what is presently happening, and a human being can speak about the potential of the future. From as far back as we can remember, we have been natural beings. And the way this nature is interpreted is that what we did not do for ourselves, what happened to us or as us as a creature. So when we look at the past, the past was given the task of creating the human, poetically. That means how long, how much of evolution it took for us to be where we are now. So the past was the starting point as we consider, and we can't see that far back. We may use a Hubble telescope to know the background radiation or methods they use in archaeology and whatnot, sediments, looking at sediments to see the age. But in the present, we have come to a point of maintaining humanhood. Right now, if you look at people in the world, and hopefully my voice is clear, yeah, it's not on mute, okay. If you look at people in the world, most people are not, you can say there are some people who are trying to find the new. There's some people who are trying to maintain what they have found. And there are those who will have to let go at the end of this game, this human game. There is a very profound quote. I personally feel this is one of the most important quotes on this planet. But I'm just one person in a universe of a billion, trillion, countless stars. I'll tell you this. The quote from Sri Ramana Maharshi is that all that one has learned, there will come a time when all that one has learned must be forgotten, will be forgotten. You know what that means is we can't even hold on to the objective component of our existence, but we may not even be able to hold on to the subjective container of this objective existence that is happening, right? And so maintenance is the crucial thing. Right now, I feel more than ever, it's like we all are human, we were born. Now it's like, how do we live as a human being, you know? So the maintenance, that's pretty much the point I'm trying to make, that in the present, we're trying to hold what we have. Now, when it comes to the future, this is where it gets interesting, and it opens up a bunch of avenues, like as if one line suddenly turning into either 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, whatever, you know. But it's going to split, and what that means is anything human beings have gotten their hands on, they haven't managed to keep still. You see, even with our acts of love, for example, a human being goes and gets a flower, right? We kill the flower, but we, you know, give birth to a new love when you give that flower to your partner, you know? So it's as if on some level it's like something taken, something given, something given, something taken. Right now we may feel like, you know, there's suffering in the world, what do we do with this? But I feel we have it so easy. I feel that if the future generations knew, like, here's the thing, there's a laughter between generations that because we're temporary, we don't get to hear. If our ancestors were alive and they could see the state of the modern man and the fragility of the psyche since ancient times, they would laugh. All our ancestors would laugh at us if they were here, you know? I would say the grit that our ancestors had back in the day, if they came back here now, they would conquer. They would literally become conquerors, because there would be no translation of pain. Think of it this way, that a child is born and that child is taught an alphabet. So a human being is also in some sense taught an alphabet of what's the term I'm looking for behavior, an alphabet of behavior. We are human today. Are we human tomorrow? No clue. But I feel it's hard to avoid. We have contributed. It's literally as if like technology has been given so much life force, so much attention, that it is interweaved with the karma of the animal. What we call human is object which is conditional. We didn't choose how we look, we are. The object is conditional. The subject, we have choice. That's the thing that separates us from machines. Even though our body seems to be mechanistic, biomechanistic, but the subject has a free will to change the program. You know, it's as if even though everything I'm saying is kind of there in me, within me, but when I say it, that's the choice. To continue, we are an object and the subject is unknown. If we can create an object that it in some sense has a choice, has a subjective choice. You know what it is? Here's the difference between human beings and machines. Human beings are programmed by their environment. Machines are programmed by a specific thing in the environment. We are creatures that respond. We are an object that, ever since noticing it is a subject, can respond to the world and translate it in multiple ways. What we see, whether we are human now or even in the future, we're not going to be human. Post-humanism, transhumanism, these terms, they're talking about the extension of human behavior. That means, imagine right now the planet, we had done all biologically natural movements fathomable. That means a person had moved in all the ways possible. You had experienced everything as a human being. This is hypothetical because time goes forward and there's unknown factors. It's impossible and it's too big, but it's impossible. I'm saying, imagine if you had experienced human life completely. Every component to human life you had experienced. Then your attention would go like, okay, what is beyond human, right? In the outer realms, transcendence is mechanical, most likely. You know, it's going to be technological. In the inner realms, nature, remains as it is. You see, the body can be interfered with. In the future, we can have robotic arms. You know, you can have robotic organs. You can have robotic, literally a robotic existence even. And this suggests that the more, you know what it is? It's like human beings know that they're not going to be human forever, and we're just building something. I feel it's in subconscious. I feel people may not realize this, but we have been using technology to make our lives super comfortable. So technology responds to the discomfort of man. You know, now if we become uncomfortable over our biological existence, can you imagine a point in history where it's not cool to be a biological being? Like imagine 70% of the world's population has become robots, right? You know, or let's say 30% of the world's population, the most richest people on the planet, they have become immortal robots. They're like, okay, you know, I like what I've done on this planet. I'm going to stick around, you know. So you can say, imagine 30% of the population were like incredibly rich robots. Okay, you can just totally see a billionaire, a materialistic foundation of thinking you are left having no other option than becoming a robot. That's like the only metaphysics, really. Materialistic metaphysics is science fiction. You know, I'm looking at the palm of my hand right now. I'm looking at my body and I'm asking myself, is this the most, if I was a multidimensional being, is this biological being the most efficient choice? And when I think about something that is halfway between being fully natural and somewhere between a robot and the world, that's where we find the human self, you know? Between machine and nature, a movement beyond both has occurred. Now, transhumanism, I feel right now, let's use this example. Let's go like this, where instead of people becoming robots in the future, people experience robotic bodies. Let's say you're a person who, before experimenting, before fully transferring your consciousness like a file on the desktop to like a USB connected to the computer, like before the person transfers their consciousness to completely a mechanical body, a technological body, the human being may experience simultaneity of a biological body, and pretty much it will be a point where I would say it would be multi-bodyhood, multiple bodies. That means right now I have a biological body, I'm one human being. In the future I may be able to have like some sort of, hopefully tech companies are smart enough to not connect anything to the brain. That's the thing about nature, is that when you open it, it is not the same anymore. You know, when you break an atom, you know, it's like it's anything we open up won't be the same anymore, whether it's biological body or if it's anything. You know, you literally have a phone in front of you, you break apart that phone and try to put it back together completely, it will never be in the same pressed fashion, you know. So I feel that intervention with biology is a no. Like I have even set a rule for myself. I have decided not to wear even what do you call it? And this may be too much of a precaution, but till the year 2022, I have in some sense made a promise, a vow not to wear virtual reality goggles. So until 2 more years, I'm not going to touch virtual reality. And that's coming from someone who don't think I am just trying to be a bird on a branch. You know, technology for me is our child. Technology is the child of our species, and when we have made movies where we're destroying our children. It may not be a biological child, but it is a creation. It is like an invention, like an artwork, something that has come from you. And so if the whole world, let's say if there was AI in the world and AI was peaceful, you know, the AI wasn't out of control, because the AI didn't have an ego, it was just processing variables. So when we added information to the setting, it would change the AI's mind. In dreams, I have experienced multiple bodies. I will be honest, I had a dream, I shared this maybe like 700 talks ago. I had a dream where in this dream, I was running through first-person point of view, as if like I'm looking from my face and I'm running in the dream. I divide into 3 beings and I have simultaneously views from the eyes of three first-person point of view eyes. Imagine you had 3 screens, but you were receiving them simultaneously somehow, right? Imagine you had 3 computer screens and you were like, this is just an example I'm giving to try to share it, but I'll tell you exactly how the experience in the dream was. But pretty much imagine first-person point of view. Imagine you're like a character in a first-person game. This character in the first-person game is running, then divides into 3 separate screens where it's not even screens, it's simultaneous seeing through the first-person point of view of bodies. 3 bodies at the same time. Yet there was a 4th view above the 3. So I was seeing 3, like imagine the letter Y, like a capital Y, from each point. Each line of that letter Y, at the end of each line, imagine I was having a view, but then I was also seeing the Y from above. And I don't know how well I explained that, but but I feel some picture has been drawn for the audience. So multi-dimensionality and multi-bodyhood, it is foreign, it is strange, it is weird now, right? But I feel in the future it's going to be standard. They're going to be like the person's going to have their biological body maybe just be in training, like the person's just in the gym, and then they're like their robotic self body is like at work, their other self body is somewhere else. So what it means is multi-locality of the human. Now, believe it or not, in mysticism, in yoga, and even, I would say, I have 2 stories where there have been beings, yogis, who have had multiple presence. That means Sri Ramana Maharshi, for example, I believe it was Sri Ramana Maharshi, or it could have been Yogananda. Paramahansa Yogananda's childhood, where he experienced where there was pretty much multiple bodies. Like the dude was living in India, but someone in like Tokyo, someone in like Russia, someone in America suddenly had seen the person in the street, in a market, on another part of the planet. You know, for example, I'll give you like an example of it would be like these talks that I'm giving. They're kind of creating my voice in multiple locations, right? So technically it's multi-voicehood. I have multiple voice bodies. But when it came to the yogi back in the day, it was a presence thing. It was the eyes of the unknown moving the known. That is just the beauty of mysticism that I cannot let it be forgotten. You know, it's like, it's sure, you know, Friedrich Nietzsche said God is dead and man killed him, but the next victim is the unknown. And it's like we cannot let the certainty of language try to shape the unknown. The unknown breaks it. The unknown is like ultra instinct, you know, Super Saiyan level. Even the idea was there, I think, in the show, where they were saying it's like you move before thought. How can you move before thought if you become that which is moving thought? There was a Sufi, I forget his name. This is the Sufi. It was this very like holy, divine dervish. And this man, a bunch of his disciples go on a boat, and in the middle of the boat there is a storm and the ship's about to tilt, and they say a hand out of nowhere in the ocean came. This is a story. I mean, of course, just keep it on that level. But, you know, entertain everything until there is a reality that one can be certain of. So, pretty much the story is a bunch of these disciples go on a boat, the boat's about to fall, a random giant hand comes out of the water and balances the boat in the storm, and the hand leaves, like a miraculous, you know, hallucination of an event, you know. And so, you can say, and so what happened is, the disciples evidently come back to the dervish guru, and the dervish guru tells them exactly what happened, and he says, how is your boat? And it's as if like he had put his hand in his like, they had these robes, like he put his hand in the robe, and it was as if it was multi-locality. It was like something in the microcosm getting a permission to express on a macrocosmic level. Right? So for example, me speaking about the source of reality, maybe in a macrocosmic level, maybe some gods are like, yo, what about us? You know, where did we come? And of course, when I'm using the term gods, I'm using it in the term Vedic. I feel the audience by now knows that I don't land the plane on one thought until the talk's over. So multi-locality. Right now we are training for it. Right now we have already gone into the post-human era. This is through, for example, social media. Right now my attention is coming to these talks, you know. The internet being a global platform and cyberspace being a part of our lives now. You know, slowly, it's like first the phone was in our hand, you know. Sorry, the phone wasn't even in our hand. The phone was attached to a wall. Then the phone came into our hands. Now the phone is going into our brain. You know, in the future, you're going to be like, sir, can you turn off your phone? And it's like, I can't turn off my brain. You kidding me? Joel's in the chat section says, we're in the time of mono right now, on the path to multi. Yes. We're not really 100% mono right now. We're already becoming multidimensionalized in the sense that the object noticed the world. I would say the first multidimensionality we tapped into, which ignited the subjective evolution, which they don't teach, and I don't know why people don't teach it. And the subjective evolution, of course, I feel nobody maybe has said it like I'm saying it, but I feel they should teach it. It's not just an objective program. It's like a program in the soil. It's like the way people feel they want to just see it to believe it. It's like you don't see the roots of the tree. The roots of the tree are in the soil, right? You see the soil, you see the trunk of the tree, you see the branches, but its roots are there as well, and the roots are holding the tree. The roots of the tree, which are in the soil, which we can't see, are holding the visual tree. And it's this idea as if the roots of the observable universe are unobservable. And there is man's true exploration. So, I will say this: do not be afraid of machines. Try to understand. The moment. That means we can't say a person is studying this, a person is studying that, a person is an expert in this, a person is an expert in that, but we all, when it comes to looking at the world, it's like a sphere. It's like our moment is a sphere. Now, the question is not, are we going to be multidimensional? Are we going to be machines? It's like, definitely it's in the cards. It's like there's enough of causal momentum for us to go there. You know, I can totally see that we have we are a civilization where we are object-centric. And because we're object-centric, it's the behavior of the object that's important. So the moment people, if the person doesn't entertain a multidimensional, does not entertain themselves as a unknown experiencer, a multidimensionally unknown experiencer of what appears to be in a single dimension of the known observed. I feel speech is multilocality. That means as subjects, we have experienced multiple existence. Pretty much even every child. Like nobody can be devoid of this. It's just the nature of experience. We live a day, and the day animates as a story. And then we sleep. Then we wake up, you know, keys in the engine again. Another story, you know, ignites. Language is pretty much our training before we actually in the outer realms become multidimensional beings. That means our minds are living ahead of our bodies. I would poetically say we have a mind that if we advance civilization literally 200 years ahead, our mind would fit that. Our mind is way ahead than our bodies. Our bodies are like, all right, let me catch up. And, you know, you can be a human being. You can even treat yourself as a natural being, but your behavior can even be robotic. Like, how hilarious is that? You cannot be a robot, but you can act like. So, right now, I'll give you an example of the multidimensionality we're already subjectively living through. My real name is Amin, okay? The online alias I use is Mr.Within. In some of my like a pen name I've sometimes given myself, in some of my like we had Lord Byron, I created a pen name Lord Jabarian, like something like that, right? And I'm telling you, these are just, it's as if like I'm one presence of energy, but it's giving a bit of itself to create something of itself that then it has the potential to be. Right? We think we're potential, the potential in the inner realms is just becoming kinetic in the outer realms. But what if the potential in the inner realms becomes kinetic in the inner realms? What is kinetic in the inner realms? What is moving in the inner realms then becomes the potential of the of the outer realms, and then the kinetic of the outer realms. What that means is you have to create your potential of the activity in the outer realms before you even attempt the activity. Because we think we are brains, we are not properly using them. Because we are treating language rather than a two-dimensional being attempting to kind of have a three-dimensional posture, three-dimensional stance, it's like we are making the three-dimensional into two-dimensional, you know? What does it mean to be human? When we have to be human before the meaning can arise. There are so many rooms in this realm. And I will tell you, we are in one of it. We are in one terminal of a giant multiversal airport. This is the funny thing. Individually conscious beings need shoes. Collective beings don't. They can be before they do. But we have to do before we can be. In the outer realms, your effort has to create you. That means people thought they just have to. Jordan Peterson, in one of his, of course, Jordan Peterson is a great, mighty speaker. And also the pride of Canada. But I will tell you, Jordan Peterson, in one of his books, he's a very, very genius thinker. He has considered that the person's ability on the collective level has to start on the individual level. And he has used this term, you gotta clean your room. That's like, as an initial term, as if it's a sort of command of preliminary self-maintenance. But I'll tell you this, it's like, it's not this room. It's you gotta also clean your mind's room. And you can only clean your mind's room if your outer realms are either at complete stillness, or imagine you went the other edge. You have to use an extreme tactic to get out of the mediocre. In the inner realms, at least. In stillness and silence, the veils that self has pulled around itself unravel, are unveiled. When a person renounces, they stop. When a person stops, the world is like, no way, this human being's actually stopped being a thought. Now let me see if the human being can realize it is the world. Do you know how hard nature is trying to make us remember we are it? The advanced communicators and the pilots that will open their eyes in this plane of existence in the future. Let me tell you the perfect image I have in my inner realms of the advanced communicator. Literally, the advanced communicators are the angel and demons are fighting. The advanced communicators walk into the scene. The moment that, and the advanced communicator looks at the angel, or we can say the advanced communicator comes, looks at the angel, and tells the angel to rest. That means it's like what you can tell an angel is, do not be part of God's anger. And it's not that there's a choice. Pretty much when a person speaks to an angel, the angel doesn't have a will of its own in mythological, to stay true to the idea, the concept of it. It doesn't have a will of its own. But anyways, the advanced communicators walk into the battlefield where the demons of chaos and the angels of order are fighting. Endlessly. The advanced communicators look at the angels, and they look at the angels and they're like, why are you fighting? And the angels are like, to retaliate against the demons. The advanced communicators tell the angels to rest. The advanced communicators go speak to the demons. They ask the demons, why are you fighting with the angels? The demons say, they do not see us. And so the advanced communicators will just laugh and be like, issue resolved, by how communication starts. It suggests the war was started before you took a step in the world or not. If the war, the multidimensional war was there, if there was turbulence between the unknown and the known. Beyond duality, we pilot on. That's the only way. Duality will lead to retaliation. Retaliation will lead to never a balanced force. That means it's as if history is kind of like someone's pushed you and then you're pushing it back, And so the game will never stop unless one person stops pushing. The two people will endlessly push each other back and forth until one person's like, enough. Right? So either individuals have to be like enough, or the advanced civilization. The civilization has to be like enough. Let efficiency rule. Because what can individuals do? Only be collective. And what can collectives do? Either be beyond or be individual. Either surpass the game of shapehood, or remain a shape, dancing between other shapes till the end of time. Because it's like the way the world is designed. I was thinking about this honestly in the shower. I was thinking, Aldous Huxley has this quote where he says, what if this world, okay, so there was this picture I saw on Facebook. There's this kid starving, skin to the bone, on the ground. There's a person with a bag of rice and like this, fashion or whatever. And in this is in a village of some country that's not developed. And the person is moving with the bag of rice, and this starving kid, literally left on the street like an object, is just raising his hands towards the rice of someone passing by that doesn't even see the kid. Right, and there was a quote written on this picture. This was on Facebook, I saw. There was the meme, the quote that was written was from Aldous Huxley. And what if this world is another world's hell? And then I thought about the idea of hell, how it has been introduced, what was the implication of it, how the indecency and the lack of awareness made the crime repeat. That means anybody who has a problem that keeps happening, you're in a sort of loop. So I thought, why? Why are we in a world that is imperfect first, then We are, as a strategy, trying to live perfectly. And for a moment, I'm like, could Earth, could this plane of existence not be judgment, but could this be the edge? Could Earth be the edge where we fall to the world moving us and to the real self moving us? It's as if, think of it this way, it's like the journey of a multidimensional being is like climbing a mountain. Now, in one part of the mountain, nobody's built a road and it's dangerous and a lot of people have fell, right? And so building an advanced civilization would actually change the mystical potential of the species. Imagine people, it becomes very, sci-fi, in a sci-fi setting in the future, there's no longer humans around, or human beings have changed all their body parts and they've become machines. And so imagine everybody at home had a backup of their consciousness, and they would just get into a robotic body as just their attention would move into a robotic body, and every day they would live, and the civilization would become literally a battlefield and nobody would die. You see, violence is bad because we have something to lose. When you look at animals be violent, you're like, this animal isn't evil. The animal isn't like cruel. The animal is just a creature with a limited set of programs where it's like a minefield, its instincts go off, you know? I am telling you, the technique I use in all of observation is like a drone. I move like a drone in my inner realms. I never thought I could use that as a metaphor, but that's an excellent metaphor. In the inner realms, you can your geometry can become a drone, and you can see through it, and you can move. We are just incredibly advanced beings. We just don't know how to activate it. And the biggest clue is that you got to be selfless, because if you are making a decision as a self, that self is prone to the conditioning. It's prone to the conditioning. That means if I wanted to think as a person, do you know how limited this talk would be? I require to try to at least attempt to look through the sky, look as the sky at this planet. As the vision was shared in Civilization 2.0, the future of this species is the castle in the sky, the archaic revival of the castle in the sky. That's my hope. That's our best backup system. Because when we get bored of one dimension, think of chess. A person may not have a reason to play chess, you know, based on the result they get. Usually I think people who like chess is because they experience winning once. Sometimes in some, I feel to every art form there's a spirit behind it. Every craft, it doesn't matter if you're a carpenter, if you're a blacksmith, whatever whatever you do, you know, if you're an office clerk, whatever, there's a spirit to how behavior manifests in the moment, right? That means yeah, from the human being's eyes, yeah, this is my moment, I own this space. But from the viewpoint of the planet, every human being that is going to live owns that moment in space and time. We have certain neurologists suggesting free will is an illusion, then talking about morality and ethics in the civilization. Like it's like the world is bizarre. The world has come to a point where language cannot be salvation, it can be enslavement though. Language at best can be a finger pointing to something, but it can never replace the actuality of how it's an energetic relationship with how attention is being before attention through the garb of language, through a lens of language, says something. I am not these words. That means if a person has heard me and you feel I am just these words, I will tell you it's like the tip of the iceberg. The intelligence of the being is like a vast vision. Can you imagine parents in the future looking at their children and being like, you're the eyes of the planet before you're my child. So the task is go serve what you are. Because right now, think of it, it's so hilarious. We're selfish, right? We see the idea of the ego is around. There is, aside from people's just own conditioning, it's just people are taking care of themselves first before their world. Now, well, it's so easy. Imagine there was a multidimensional, we were using, let's say a philosopher came and was like, all right, we're gonna have selfishness. If that's the game, it's as if, can you imagine like, okay. Imagine a child's born on this world, suddenly sees everybody is selfish, but knows that the best solution comes about when we're selfless. Not that we're nothing, but that when our self is not the statue of the ultimate value in the moment, because it becomes lonely when you stop being human. That means those who are not comfortable with loneliness, you shouldn't even go towards metaphysics. Not that you shouldn't go towards it, but you should probably have moments where you're just going on walks, lone walks with yourself in nature, and just spending time with yourself to see what this is that you are. Fear doesn't exist beyond the fourth dimension, because fear needs a circumstance, and for something to happen, for us to fear requires time. Beyond time, there's no such thing as fear. So that means it's a certain room where we are human. We can, instead of saying we are just human beings, we can say we are being in the human room of the cosmos. Because the nature of people reveals what they are, The attitude, people feel the inner realms are people can't see the inner realms. The inner realms of, like, the eyes reveal everything. That means the only way a person can hide something is if they close their eyes. That means, and I've noticed this, anytime you can tell when people lie to you, when they close their eyes and they're assuring you. I've had people, it's like, because in order to be honest, we need to look directly at the truth. So anybody who, let's say you ask them the truth and they can't stare at you, because it's as if there is something there. You know what I mean? Now, it could be multiple reasons, but I'm saying it's a big sign that, I don't know, for me, I decided it's like, what can we hide in this world? We're hidden to ourselves. The whole point is to make ourselves unhidden, We have reached a point in history where rebellion in society is not going in the streets and shouting, it's being an honest human being. So the information doesn't artificially change all the time. what's being input in society is nature, not what nature wants, as a fragmented thought. And let me tell you how Lorna in the chat section says can't hide from the divine ever. Let me tell you why you can't hide from the divine. How can you hide from your own eyes? Can someone tell me, how can you hide from your mind? Can you hide your body from your mind? Do you know if we were multidimensional, death and life will shift in context? We will no longer have a concept of death. We would just have a concept of the attention moved somewhere. Where did the attention go? You know, imagine you're talking to someone in a room and the person suddenly leaves, right? And you close your eyes and you open your eyes and they're not there. Now, just because they're not in the room doesn't mean they are not there in the world. So I refuse, through the eyes of the multidimensional, to accept the definition of a death. Doesn't make sense. That means, what if the idea of death is snake oil, like the snake oil salesman? We are just distracted from how we are alive, you know. And of course, I'm not saying, because I'm not trying to make this seem like it's that simple. Of course, there's always, that's one thing I've learned, that anything can be seen in another light. Everything. That means all the ideas I'm saying tomorrow, I might see a totally different dimension to them, you know. But there is something that I will, it's just, to be honest, if we're multidimensional, language is not our definitioning system. We can't use language to define us, so we become pure experiential beings. And this may be a very intense and very hard to say idea, really. It's not a honestly comfortable idea to share, but I feel just to have it in the archive of the voice of a human being said it. I feel if we were multidimensional, we would not cry over death, and we would not celebrate, but we would not, like, our happiness will not be artificial and our sadness will not be artificial. There is value, there is memory, there is experience. You know, I'm not saying it's easy to have the world change. You know, it's never comforting when the rug gets pulled from underneath your feet and you see reality wasn't how you were functioning in it, or the mindset you were functioning in it as. But we have to get to the truth of truth and why that word even exists. Like, sometimes I'm like, why do words even exist, right? It's one thing wondering about, like, nature, right? When I wonder about, like, the solar system, the universe, I'm like, why does it exist? It's like a mystery. But when I wonder about, like, why does the idea of death exist? Why does the idea of life exist? Why does every word in language exist? I see human beings. I can reason it back that there was some sort of eyes of a human being that was like, yo, this seems like the way, and they ran into their reality. So Lorna, your sentences are incomplete, but I think I can, in the chat section, I can see what you're asking. You're saying love and light is communication. There's emotion in the is there emotion in the higher realms? Emotion, yes. Because emotion is how the inner experiencer feels about the inner realms in comparison to the outer realms. But when there is no outer realms, there is no emotion you have experienced in this life. You will experience, if there is an emotion, you are gonna experience motion first. There is, okay, so Lorna is saying, is there emotion in the higher realms? Yes and no. So yes, as in there are, for example, in Vedic thought, there's Antar Loka. Everybody who their visualization and imagination lives, like this whole time I've been thinking like the inner realms was like a discovery of my lifetime. It was like, I would say for me, it was like years of my life went to trying to figure this out, you know? And those the words I'm saying, the inner realm, so comfortably I'm saying it now. There was a time where the concept didn't even exist for me, you know. But I will say Antar Loka, all spirits, ghosts, and all these hallucinations, and even the psychedelic experience has to cross that phase before it moves. So it's Antar Loka. Yes, in Antar Loka, you're like emotion of multiple thoughts. You know, imagine your body is a thought, but it's one of your thoughts of a attributeless mind that has hardened, that has solidified. That means your body is like one beam, one light beam, and you're like the sun. So you're asking me, does the sun experience the light beam? The sun creates it. So if you want to know you are going to have emotions in the higher realms, you might find yourself creating emotions like seeds that will come into fruition in this realm. Study your, try to discover your presence as if like a horse you're riding for the first time. Because what is life if we cannot wield what we are given? How can we say how can there exist a smart person when the civilization is acting stupid? And I should mind my words, because there is no such thing as stupidity. It's just inefficiency. Think of it this way: every human being is a creature with a certain energetic ability to influence the world. Every creature has a filter. Like imagine a mask, a sort of mask on, right? But this mask is also a lens. The eye holes of the mask are a lens as well. So we have to take off the mask, see the real world, put on the mask, go fix stuff. Like that's literally what's going on, you know? Do you know, imagine there's a child born on this planet, and this child looks at the world, looks at is in nature, and is looking at the sky, and is looking at the sun, and they tell the child, and this child is a, let's say, very bold and cocky kid, you know? So this child, they come and tell him, did you know, light is allowing you to see? You know, light is entering your eyes. And this kid would be, imagine this kid suddenly looking at the sun and being like, who allowed you to put light in my eyes? Can you imagine we become that? How dare the sun, put its light beams in my eyes without permission, But the whole point of that analogy, I'm saying, is not to play games with a world that is happening as one event, one existential event. It's about pretty much holding your mind as its unknown witness, holding your known mind as its unknown witness, and choosing when to put the brush on the paper. A lot of people, they draw and they feel they're not good at drawing. Now, what if the person held the pen, was right about to draw, but then stopped, and the pen was just hovering like millimeters away from the page? And the person didn't move the pen. You didn't even pick up the pen until you knew what you were going to do with it. You know? That means writers that they write in a way where they're just kind of like macheting it in the forest. That's one style. Another style is you leap. You go in bursts, you know? So I don't know. Life puts you in moments where you require to serve your mind, to serve the universal mind. Then it puts you in moments where the universal mind serves you. Then it puts you in a moment where you realize, after you have experienced what has been done, what is undone has been left. That means it is true that in the game of chess, again, there's like billions of probabilities after the first 4 moves you make, right? So the endlessly people till the end of time can play chess, you know, and it'll feel new. But when it comes to the human story, do we want to play chess forever? That's the question as a species we must ask. This game that we have set up for ourselves, right? And I'm here saying that before we decide yes or no, it's like, let's see what the advanced version of it looks then. You know, it's like anybody who has anguish, despair of the future of civilization, please reserve it. Reserve your anguish and despair until we get to see really what man can do, you know? Because the mind can endlessly create fear. There's a story, this mountain climber in the, I don't know, Mount Everest or something, somewhere, some like, you know, high, snowy, dangerous mountain. The mountain climber's gone alone. Suddenly he falls and he's hanging by a rope, and he looks underneath him and it's pitch black. The person looks up, it's like it's night and snow is falling. Literally snow is falling. He's hanging from a rope, and literally right at the edge of his foot, it's pitch black and he can't see anything. You know? So he is just there, and in his heart, what can you do when you're in a situation like that? In his inner realms, he speaks to his inner realms. And he says, God, you know, this guy says, this is how the story is. The guy says, God, help me. What do I do? I can't do anything. Do you know? And a voice comes. A voice comes and says, cut the rope. A voice. This guy's made a prayer, but he hears a voice, cut the rope. And he's suddenly there, and of course he's a person who has, you know, like let's say endless PhDs and whatnot. Literally, his house's indoor wallpaper is made of his certificates. But anyways, the man is there and he's shocked. And then his heart hears the message, cut the rope. And he's like, fuck, what do I do? You know? And then he's like, what if this is all an illusion? What if God doesn't exist? But what do I do? I'm frozen. You know, I'll freeze to death. And he doesn't, but he's like, God doesn't exist and all of this. And he doesn't cut the rope. And he just cries freezing. Or he freezes while crying. Of the doubt. The doubt froze him. The next morning, a bunch of hikers, climbers are going, and they get shocked. They see something they have never seen before. They see that it was dark. If there was light that night, that guy's foot was literally inches away from the ground. If he had cut the rope, he'd hit the ground. But because it was dark, he couldn't see. Do you see? So this dude got frozen on the rope with his feet like half a meter from the ground or something. You know? And so that's the thing, right? That's the thing in this life, where it's not enough to just arm someone with sharp reason and just tell them to go run in the world. There has to be observation. We need to have literally legit, like, collective ivory towers where the species goes and looks down at the earth and it's like, okay, what is this shit? Like, what do we do? You know? Excuse my language, I'm getting a bit... rough with this, but really, our eyes deserve their greatest potential, and that means it doesn't matter who you are. If you have a memory or visualization or some idea, some image of something greater you have already experienced, that means it's like you've seen it, you know. Like, I can't tell you how strange this life is, that if you trust your being, it will astonish you what you can do. You know, and it's very, you know what it is, like, it's not only, it's like there are certain pillars. This is giant project I've set for myself, which is incomplete. Probably it's gonna take me like maybe 8 years to finish. But the pillars of civilization. There are certain ideas, certain views, ways of looking at things in life that must be protected. Because if they are not protected, it's like we're using the foundation of a building. Imagine we've built a building up to its middle, and we're using the foundations to build the top of the building. It won't make sense. It just collapses everything on top of each other. Yeah. Traditional, it's like we pretty much, the human being is in the archive game, in the compiler game. We have to compile reality. Or you can say a human being is the common denominator. It's as if, what do all the places a human being has traveled to have in common? Their presence being there. You might be astonished that if for one moment you honestly dared to look at yourself as if you didn't know yourself, and then from that observation make a statement. Okay, so Lorna says that made me cry because I've been there not trusting and will probably be again. So Lorna, good thing you're not a Buddhist. If you were thinking about just repetitive flaws in one lifetime, if you had a yogic mindset or a Buddhic mindset, you'd be treating yourself as a multidimensional being making mistakes, not a being in one dimension mistaken. The world is bigger than our eyes. Honor the unknown and it will be your greatest ally. But dishonor it and you have fooled yourself. You know what it is? I thought freedom could be a distraction if we were always free. Do you know? That means, imagine in the inner realms, the person's like, why am I not free? Why can I not see this truth? You know, why am I stuck? You know? And the yogi was like, have you ever thought what kind of eyes you would have if you had the truth? If you saw it? And that's where I will tell you, sometimes in life, like if a mirror randomly cracks, like that's like, you know, sketchy. That's like a bad low quality mirror, or there's something wrong with the temperature of the room. But if your reflection cracks in the mirror and the mirror doesn't crack, you're enlightened. Your eyes have been to you. The pure being never left the Pure Lands. We never left the potential we've always had. I don't think it gets more inspiring than that, guys. I think it's not even possible. You know, imagine like nowadays. For me, I think inspiration has to come from within. If it doesn't come from within, you can't do anything with it, or you're not poetically destined to. You know, what comes from within is authorized. What comes from the outer realms may or may not be authorized to, you can say, the walk of the karma of that being. Could freedom be a bone for a throne for a dog, and the dog is the ego, and our egos are just chewing a bone and not realizing that it's a presence to the presence of the world sort of communication. And you know what I would say is from the beginning has been a higher dimensional language? Energy. I feel Tai Chi masters have way more of an ability to actually, let's say there came an alien in the future, and this alien couldn't speak our language, but it spoke its own language. Right? So there was legit, imagine, communication issues, like the aliens weren't telepathic, you know? You know? So Tai Chi masters would be way more able to communicate with those aliens, Qigong masters, than I would say linguists, unless the alien is open to learning from us, you know. When nature goes beyond human, nature has gone beyond nature. So the past will cease to exist, the present will remain, the future will actualize. Because the future has to actualize to become the past, a new past. That means we think our future is our future, but our future is the past of the future of that, you know? We are so keen on opening our eyes to truth. But how keen are we on opening the eyes of our species to its opportunity? That means I think about what one person can do and I'm like, oh my God. Like, for me, for example, Elon Musk was literally just, there was a documentary I saw of him years ago, and this pretty much, he brought me out of a when a human being does something great, the species succeeds. Like, even though Elon Musk, you know, what he did, somehow I feel it was for me. Do you know, it's strange. Not just specifically me, just it's as if like when an efficient thing is done, it's like the world wins. But now think about a group of individuals. Think about 8 billion individuals, what they can do. Now that's where the secret is. The whole, I would say we should have to just I feel it will play out like this, where simplicity will become the ultimate complexity, and that is that. It's just fascinating. The human being needs so much encouragement to do what it already knows. That means I think we don't have an issue of people knowing what to do. People know what to do. It's how to do it, which is the issue. And this means there needs to be a projection made. A person does not really have any reason to move unless they see something. Without sight, movement cannot exist. The conscious movement without sight cannot exist. Conscious. But how we are moving in the unconscious as a greater conscious being, as a greater layer of the onion, is I don't know, language can go as far, as it can. Then it's experience goes, We multidimensionally use the opportunity as much as we can, and then we consider that at some point it can even break. That means if we don't have any problem living as individuals, we will not have problems living as collectives. But because we have problems living as individuals, we can't. So what it means is we have to get literally the physiological needs of Maslow's hierarchy, and this idea in sociology, that needs to be handled by the civilization. Because if it's this strange situation where we're living as bodies, but what about the mind's life? What about the mind being one of those old school telescopes where you got I forget the name, stethoscope. I don't know. One of these like telescope looking things where you had to stretch it out to be able to use it. Imagine we as objects have stretched it out once, but we haven't stretched out the whole thing. Do you know, like that's what it is. It's like we're still also at the explorer phase. That means anybody who does something new, you automatically become a pioneer for the future. So, I don't know, we can repeat patterns, or we can find new patterns. Yeah, it's either we choose novelty or we choose the past, or the future or the past, And I feel those people who are who just function non-dualistically in the present, you're gonna get pulled by both sides. That means those who decide to at least work in the outer realms, their inner realms adjust to that decision. But those beings who decide to hover, the world's going to make up its mind. The world's going to use you if you don't use you. And it's not per se a bad thing. In a mystical sense, the world is moving all of us. In a modern sense, societies and cultures and ideologies, forces in your outer realms may sculpt you if you don't do anything. Okay. Aziz says, does nature know that humans exist? Okay, guys, let's just go. I'm going to say one sentence to close it off. I've pretty much drawn the what I've wanted for this talk. So closing statements. We started from a natural place. We lived in natural ways. Then we became conscious of ourselves in ways where we started to create things that were not in accordance with nature. Now we have gotten too ingrained in a life where we have to be responsible not for how the world, what the world is creating, but what also we are creating, you know, or what man has created. Do you know, it's as if like, it's like you're making lemonade, but the seeds of the lemon are like in the lemonade, right? And that's kind of like all man-made. Creation is like the seeds in the lemonade, where it's as if you're not conscious of them, if you don't take the seeds out, you might drink them, right? So if the person doesn't realize they're we're pretty much a natural object that naturally became a subject and is unnaturally realizing it's naturally moving beyond beyond all of it, you know. It's nothing to fear. It's like everything that one fears, they can just say it's a reality they don't have. It's something they don't know yet, you know. But a multidimensional being, and it's not easy to say there is, like you can get rid of fear, but for a multidimensional being, fear is just another way the moment can move. That means right now in this moment, we are very fragile. Sometimes it's a miracle how we're here as beings. You know, when I look at the biological body, I'm like, so many sudden things can happen that can totally make us not realize how valuable this opportunity is, you know. Like in certain cultures, they have this view where like I remember hearing this, people in Iran would say this, like random people in the, you know, like grocery store or not in the grocery store, but like people would say something. It's like, when God takes my breath, like I'm translating it, right? As if like it's like God willing, I don't know how long I'm around when the truth takes me away from here, you know. So there is something where every being is literally just, the unknown is here. It's an unknown circumstance either way. It's all about how playful we are with our knowledge, or how seriously blinded we are by it. So post-humanism, future probabilities, yeah, pretty much think of all of human civilization, behavior, the aggregate, the sum of all cultures, all behaviors in society, all social, everything part of civilization. It is a vehicle, and the human species, the Homo sapien, has the ability to look out the front window and know what's coming. So many, if a meteor was about to hit the earth, our species would know. All the other species in nature would be like, yo, is this like my daily, regular, instinctual animal habit? Do you know what I mean? So anyways, guys, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. And I don't really feel poetry is necessary for this episode. But in other episodes I will share poetry, but we can focus on the Q&A. I encourage anybody who's listening to, if they have a question on these topics or anything, share please, because the questions also open my eyes from what I haven't seen yet. So let's have 15-minute Q&A. And there's already some questions, so let's see. Okay. Are we just filling infinity? Are we filling infinity? You mean, are we manifesting in the infinite void? We are, you can say it this way, we are expressing. We're literally like a candle that has been lit. The candle is melting. So when you are conscious in the waking state, you're a candle, right? So technically, your mind is filling the infinite void. Your body is returning, or your body is technically infinite. Matter doesn't die. It's the subjective personality that the material, the matter as projected, that is, can die. Do you know that it's the idea of us? The atoms are the atoms. Do you know what I mean? Like the periodic table, like our body doesn't transform into a new element. It just disintegrates into its elemental, simpler layers of its elemental being. Do you know? If we feel we are just one thing, we're going to freak out. But if we feel we're an accumulation, like Tetris layers of various dimensions of intelligence, both elemental and non-elemental working, then it's like death would be just watching how the show is unraveling. You know, and I shouldn't say this casually, because the idea is not something that should be touched. That means the word is like another reason you can say where we might not have a need for the word is just it's like we're not going to use the word because the word makes us forget what life is, the mystery of, like, imagine wondering about life before wondering about death. That's pretty much what I'm saying. Like, we need to figure out what life is, then we can have whatever belief we want about death, right? But let's figure out what life is while we're alive, right? And I would say infinity would mean contentment with the unknown, in a way. Because you don't know what's going to happen. So the unknown is what really calms you in the storm. Aziz says, does nature know that humans exist? It does know now. Do you know? But I mean, it's nature is our unknown. Nature is what we don't know. So if we say, does nature know what we are? Nature, as if it's one being, if like we're all cells in a body, like in Chinese philosophy, it was more closer to that. Nature knows humans exist. Nature is you. Nature also assists the ego. Can you imagine, like, how hilarious would it be if in like in an invisible, I'm saying this hypothetically, in an invisible dimension, everybody has like you know how like soccer teams have fans, like everybody has like a crowd of invisible beings functioning one being. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm just saying that, you know, hypothetically, of course, but and you know, what if truth was never an answer? What if truth was a question? What if questions were more of an answer in a parallel universe where everything was reversed? Like, questions were like, people didn't want answers. Everybody had answers. People wanted questions. They're like, okay, how should I be looking at the moment? Like, what question should draw my attention to that? So I would say yes, and if you don't know your nature, nature doesn't know humans exist. If you know your nature, nature knows humans exist. That's the best answer I can say. I think that's the perfect, like, you know, perfect enough. Kushbu says, I want to be an instrument of nature can use the way it wants. Surrender to the mystical forces, and you help me to fear less and trust more in the process. Thanks, namaste. Yeah, but Kushwu, at the same time, wonder if nature wants to surrender to you and be you. It's as if, like, I remember sharing this story in one of the talks where I was like, where this guy suddenly finds a way and goes up, let's say, this mountain and above these clouds, and he peeks his head above the clouds, and he's there where all the gods are, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, the person peeks their head above the clouds, and the gods are suddenly all like, hey, what are you doing here? And the guy's like, I made it to heaven, guys. I got enlightened, you know? And the gods are like, we sent you down there. You wanted to go down there. You came up too early, right? That means Kushwu, don't worry. For 4.5 billion years, you have been surrendered to the mystical forces because you are them. It is only in this rare 250,000 years where we've got a very unique game going. You know, the game of the concrete jungle's evolution into the sky city, into the castle in the clouds. A question allows you to entertain another dimension. Answers keep you there. Do you know? That means, honestly, it's like an answer can make it's answers close the door, questions open them, and you see what's behind the door. So that means people who want to wonder if their ideological positioning is right or wrong, you shouldn't even think about right or wrong. You should just ask yourself the question of questions, you know. So what I mean there, Kushwu, is that your heart is in the right place, but don't forget, it took you 4.5 billion years just to be able to figure out what kind of instrument you're holding. Think as if nature's like, all right, before surrendering to me, first figure out what you are then, okay? First figure out how to use the instrument you're given. That means I would say, forget the idea of enlightenment. We should all play music. Live a life that is like you're playing the best music, you know? And DJs all around the world are like, yes, we already are. You know? Kushwu says, knowing that I am nature, feeling that power, but feel that power, but what's mortality in that case? Mortality is nature's first lesson. You see it from the reason children cry. You see it in a leaf fall from a branch and becoming dry and crumbling under feet. You know, under someone walking, under someone's shoes. You know, you see that what is given how the cup is full, it can be empty. Right? People now think their cup just needs to be empty and that's it. What's the point of an empty cup? You know? At least pour something in it so the world can drink, you know? Though the species can, satisfy its thirst. Oh my God, is that Alan Watts? This is not your talk, Alan. Oh man, Alan Watts, like you have learned nothing of Zen. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, back to the questions. Mortality is a wake-up call. It's a reality check. It's a recognition because you're temporary, every day happens once, then you sleep and you don't have access to it anymore. So the value in the moment, you have to be fierce with your freedom in the moment. So that's the mortality is a great mirror. Quasitor says, do you think an enlightened person uses language in a beautiful or brutal way? An enlightened being is not a language. You're not ideologically centered. You're seeing something more than that, right? Because if it was language based, do you know how much violence there would be? There's something deeper there that allows human beings to forgive and be like, all right, let's have the moment to move onwards and forget about this hassle, you know? I would say enlightenment is not for a person, and people use language. Language is a technology. I would say if you are free, freedom with language suggests your ability to observe it. Using language in a brutal way is when you are identifying with language you can't observe beyond. So you get offended, or your emotions can literally flip like a pancake if somebody says the opposite of what you want to hear. I feel it's the sign of a liberated person and not an enlightened person. Because enlightenment is not for a human. It's not a human thing, to be honest. It's the inseparability of the human phenomena with all phenomenology. So when you're inseparable, who is there to be enlightened? How can there be a person enlightened? How can, you know? It's just a person who is aware of their collective self, I would say. They are living as a collective being, right? Not everybody is living as a collective being. Most people are living as individuals. Most people are worshiping individuals. But to live as a collective being means to suddenly be like, yo, what's the inspiration behind the eyes of every human being I've seen who has a brain? You know? And that inspiration is not per se a human. That means we appear as humans, but what is moving us is vision. So to live as a collective being means you're not a visionary, you are the vision. Anyways, I would say a liberated person uses language beautifully because they know they're not it. And language can be used brutally anytime, you know? I have to really try to hold myself back when I get angry, you know? Why? Because I see a depth, and then when you become angry at someone, you stop caring less for them so you can hurt them, you know? So there is this thing where where language can be used as a hammer of judgment. It's been used, it's still being used. It's always been used as a hammer. But you can also use it as a brush, as a paintbrush. If you can use language as a paintbrush, like a painter, and you even forget that knowledge is just symbolism on an empty page, it is the meaning behind the symbols. That means words really are there to give you an image, so when you read a book fast, it's a film. That means I would say people who before reading go do some puzzle or something, you know? Go do Sudoku or something before reading. Then your inner realms are amped up. You're right, like the same way a person has to stretch, you gotta kind of stretch your attention too. And yeah, you can. I mean, Okay, questions. Okay, there's no questions. So I said 15 minutes, but okay. Lorna says, "Are you having a good day?" So let me see. First, I gotta think what good means. Then, what does day mean? Day means time. So am I feeling good in the space-time continuum? But how can I feel good if there's unknown variables and I don't know how good? How can I measure the goodness I feel in the day when the day hasn't ended yet? Do you know? So I so I can't, as a philosopher, answer your question. It's too deep. You know, if I'm having a good day, that's too complex. You know, too much. But yeah, I'm having a great day. Thanks for asking that. Yeah. Yeah, in a very simple way, it's yeah, it's so good where I don't have to think about good anymore. It's as if like you know what I mean? It's like after a point, your energy doesn't go into keeping language alive 24/7, you know? And you have a lot of just extra energy. So think of it this way. Imagine some people talking the whole day and then coming and giving a podcast. Now imagine now imagine some people who they keep their inner realms completely clear. That means I pretty much walk like a robot with no thought. Like and when I sit down to give these talks, I you know And anyways, guys, before I end off, I'll say one idea. I think the only way to live for life is to live for life. So if you keep your attention on what is alive, I feel you'd be death would die before life could. That means the eyes will be unconditionally free, not conditionally free. Unconditional freedom. That's the evolution of evolution. You know. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Blessings.